Hello and welcome to the More About Jesus podcast. This is another special episode with a special guest interviews. I've been calling them Jesus stories. So this is our third one. And I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Erin Warmbier.
Hello, I'm not Daniel Dunbar. I'm sorry, I'm not.
No, well, you're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
We get enough of him.
No way.
So it looks so, and just so everybody knows that she's using an awesome LTN setup from Lovely Mary. That's why it looks so good.
I know,
Has an
it looks
excellent
super
mic.
crisp.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is all my husband's stuff. So I do the thing where I just walk up here and sit down. He sets it all up. So it's a good gig.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so before we get too far, just tell us about yourself. And it's just the basic personal stuff. As far as you want to go, you don't have to tell us where you live or nothing. We're good with that.
Well, I am Erin Warmbier. I am a mom to 5 children, and I homeschool them. So that is like a huge chunk of my time and my day right there. Let's see. What else about me? That's like a lot about me right there. I enjoy house projects. I enjoy the great outdoors. And I enjoy talking with people about Jesus. So when you said, does anybody want to tell their Jesus story? I was like, me? Me? Because I've been listening to your podcast, wishing that I could just join in. So here I am, living the dream.
Do you do it on the regular, telling people your Jesus?
I'm one of those people that I do not really enjoy small talk. I mean, it's fine because I'll talk about anything really. And if it's small talk, that's fine. But when I meet someone, I want to know who they are. And I don't walk away from a conversation very satisfied if I don't feel like I've learned something about who they are. So, and that's a lot of who I am. So that comes up a lot, the Jesus story. So
I'm so much the same. I kind of do it. I'll say social convention. So I sound like Sheldon now, but I know you're supposed to do small talk, but it's so hard for me. I can't stand it. I like to go deep with people, even people I don't know.
Well, also, I'm really bad at small talk because I'm also very awkward at small talk. So I would rather just skip all the part where I say super awkward things and there's a lot of strange silences while people are trying to figure out what on earth I'm talking about and just skip right to a real conversation. It feels less awkward to me to do that.
It's how about that sports ball team of yours? They're pretty awesome, eh?
Yeah. I was working the welcome desk at church this week, and I was already awkward because I was wearing this big old COVID mask and conversation's harder that way. And this guy came up and bought a book for me. And then I ended up correcting him on how he thanked me, but I didn't mean to. And then it got more awkward because I just kept talking about how I didn't mean to do that. And he just kind of backed away slowly. And I was like, oh my gosh, Erin. I hope that guy felt super welcome here today. Awesome. That's just story of my life.
Oh, we're kind of twins that way. That's hilarious.
That's fine.
Before we jump into your Jesus story, I got a question about homeschooling. So, have you always homeschooled with the kids?
Mm-hmm. Yes. We're not just passionate homeschoolers. I guess I am now, but I was homeschooled for a chunk of life, kindergarten through halfway through 5th grade. And I really loved my childhood, really loved my childhood. And so it was always an option for me. I always thought I love that I got to do that. I love the flexibility. And then when it came time to put our oldest son in school, we didn't grow up around here. And the school system around here is kind of crazy and hard to figure out. And so we just got a little overwhelmed and we thought, well, kindergarten can't be that hard. He's already starting to read and write a little bit and he can count. And how much can you screw a person up in kindergarten? He'll be fine. So we'll just do it this year. And then if it doesn't work, then we'll put him in school next year. And we loved it. And so we just kept doing it. And every year it's kind of well, if it works this year. So, if it ever doesn't work, then we're not opposed to putting him in school and putting any of them in school, but it's working so far.
That's cool. Yeah. Where I live, there's a segment of society that homeschool for very strong religious reasons.
Right. Yeah.
And
you get that a lot. Mm-hmm.
And so I am interested in your story too, because of that. And, cause it seems different to me. I've never seen it. You don't seem to be an isolationist kind of, because you're very social as a family. I know that. And so it's not like you're trying to hide out from the world, which some people do. And I'm not judging them for their choices. There's a whole different dynamic.
That's a whole homeschool thing. And I think like that's a huge perspective on homeschooling that like most people have. But I think so many more people are doing it more recently. Like I was one of the weirdos homeschooled back in the like 80s and early 90s. Even though my family also was not like isolationist or anything, we just did. But we homeschool primarily out of convenience and kind of laziness, because I don't even think I could get 5 children up and out the door by like 7:00 in the morning to get them all to like 3 different schools for 3 different ages. And then I'd still be doing their homework with them at night. So why don't I just sleep in and do it during the day? So I don't know. A lot of people think it's a lot of work. And I'm like, well, it is a lot of work, but it's a different kind of work. And it's a kind of work I prefer over how stressful it would probably be for me to try to put them in school. So
yeah, I got,
and then we can like
2
do
boys
vacations.
And driving them around like when they were little. Sometimes it was like, that's 2.
Yeah.
But then
it's a lot. It's like taxi service and all over the place. And the flexibility that we lose to be able to say, oh my gosh, it's a gorgeous day, let's go hike, or, to join some program that's happening at the library, or, just all these different things that we can do. We went out west for a month because we could just do that, and we could use it as schooling and do a vacation at the same time. So yeah, it's really convenience and flexibility that we do it for primarily, but who knows what next year will bring.
I'm thinking I want to join your homeschool.
Right?
After the day of shoveling snow again and stuff like that, it'd be, that would be good.
You can. Yeah, come join the homeschool. I'll make you do my chores, but, it's a fair trade-off for sleeping in and flexibility.
Oh, I would, in a heartbeat, come and do your chores and cook all day.
Thanks. Oh, yeah, you could cook for me. That'd be great.
We have dreams of that. Me and Luke have talked about having a big streamer house, and then I'll come and be the chef or whatever.
Yeah.
All the streamers in one place. Your house is almost... Tell me about your house. How is it? Is it almost selling? So how long have you been in the new place?
Can you hear who's coming up the stairs? What did Daddy tell you about what Mommy's doing right now? I'm talking with my friend Al. Can you go back downstairs and talk to Daddy about your money? I am glad you found it. Can you go back downstairs and tell Daddy about it? Okay. You have all of it.
Oh,
go back downstairs.
Penny so much.
I know. I'm glad you found it. She was missing her money. This is my youngest coming up to talk. She was missing her money and she just found it. So this is very exciting.
Well,
right, go back downstairs. Tell Daddy all about it. He'll help you count it.
That's even biblical. The angels rejoice over the lost coin or whatever.
Just acting out a parable over here. Yeah.
How long have you been in the new place now?
I think we've been here about 9 months ish. So, we are a family of 7 and we were living in like a teeny tiny little house. And we just needed more space, especially for having people over. And Matt had taken over like the biggest bedroom to do a stream room, and it still wasn't big enough to like fit a table and cameras and everything in. And so we moved, still pretty much within the same town, just like a town right next door. And we bought like a 1910s old house, and the stream room's in the attic, and there's 4 different levels. So like the first week we are all like, our knees are not going to survive this house. Like we kind of thought we were still sort of young, but then we bought this house, and like a week in we were like, we're going to need knee surgery, but we're getting used to it. It's been 9 months. We're getting tough. So just this week though, Matt had some friends over to game, and they bought him a mini fridge because we game in the attic and our drink refrigerator is in the basement. And so like the number one complaint that anybody has in this house is like, why don't you have a refrigerator in the attic? We have to go all the way to the basement if we want to drink. So now we have one up here that solved the problem. But yeah, it's a great old house. The people that had it before took great care of it. And they went to our church and they like walked us around and showed us how to like bleed the radiators and, all the little secrets of it. We found an old moving picture machine stuck underneath the porch. Cool. Yeah, it was so cool from like 1910. It's just been fun. It's been really fun to like investigate and find out interesting things about the history of the house. So
yeah, we almost bought a house that old.
Yeah, that's what you said. You were looking at some like that.
It just needed too much work, and I'm really not good at doing work. But
yeah,
there's some kind of real, like my wife Gloria grew up in an old farmhouse with all the slanted roofs and the attic, and that's so.
Yeah, she was saying that like the doorways and the windows and stuff like remind her of that house because totally. I guess it looks pretty similar to ours. Yeah,
and we were really glad big enough to host. You're able to host LTN Con there, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, that was awesome. And also living in the same neighborhood as Luke in Asia, and they have an Airbnb, so it's like, I mean, we can host like 1 million people all right here, and it's exciting. Yeah, it's been really good.
Let's get to it. Let's do your Jesus story.
Yeah,
want to know. Yeah, I mean, formerly called testimony. They say that. It's just, right. I'm trying to change it up.
Yeah, well, I like Jesus' story better. I like that. I think it connects a little bit more, We all have a story. Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is the Jesus story. Let's see, where shall I start? I guess like my family they're Christians. And like, I identify a lot with Paul when he talks about like how he's like the Pharisee of Pharisees or whatever. Cause like, I feel like kind of that's how my family is. Like my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side, they didn't become believers till they were adults, but then they were all in. Like they were at church all the time. They were Sunday school teachers. I mean, their whole lives basically. And I mean, still doing as much as they can to serve in the church and like, my pappy, preaches in jail to people and all in. And then my grandparents on my dad's side were missionaries in Nigeria. So my dad grew up in West Africa. And when they had to come back to the States, he took a job as a preacher. And so they, were preachers. So like I have this long history of people loving Jesus, and I was raised in the church. I remember being probably 4 or 5 years old and asking my mom, am I a Christian? Are we Christians? And because for some reason that word had just stuck out to me at church that day. And she was like, well, I don't know. Are you? And having this whole conversation on the way home about what I believed. And so I was baptized when I was 6 years old because my best friend got baptized and I was super jealous. And I was like, Oh, me too. I want to be baptized too. And so it was like kind of confusing for me because I don't have this point in time where I'm like, that is when I became a believer. Like that's when I met Jesus for the first time. It just always was. And I remember talking that out with my mom one time and feeling like, was that genuine faith? Like when I was a kid, like at what point would I say I became a Christian? And, she was just like, well, that is just part of your story. And like that is also the way the Lord works, to just raise you gradually to know him. So I don't have like a big conversion story there. I do know that when I think I really identified my faith with performance a lot, though. I grew up in a really conservative tradition that kind of emphasized, holiness and performance, and so
regular
I always
church attendance and
church attendance,
prayer meeting and choir,
and doing the Bible drills and not doing the big sins and being just a good obedient girl, which I struggled with because I was also just a really loud girl, which didn't fit into that tradition. But in general, I felt like I was pretty good at it. Like I was a good Christian and did all the good Christian things and, felt very badly for people that just didn't know Jesus and weren't good like me,
That's
so
exactly how I grew up and how I felt when I was
right.
young.
Yeah. And I don't think it wasn't genuine faith, but I think it was a very immature faith and very lacked a lot of understanding of who Jesus really is and what that really means and really who I really was. So I don't think it was till I went off to college, living on my own and being around a lot of different kinds of people and having a lot of different opportunities, when I was really confronted with what do I really believe, what is true about me, who is Jesus other than, I know obviously like died on the cross to save us, raised again on the third day, and that like we're supposed to obey him and the Bible is the rule book. And so I remember going off to my freshman year college class and the college professor like referring to the Bible as if it wasn't literal. And I was like, well, is he even a Christian then? Like having to confront all of my concepts about that. And that was really hard, but good to have people that really loved Jesus, but came from a different perspective to talk that out with. And my best friends came from different perspectives on that and were really helpful in talking that through with me. And then also they were really helpful at confronting me with my own sin in a way that I think when you are a part of a family, you don't always like hear that really well from your sister, your mom, your dad, but then you go off and you meet people that become your best friends and are not afraid of telling you who you are and being honest with you about your flaws and your sins. And I think that was when I realized like, I'm not good. Like I'm not this good little girl that toes the line and has no sin in her. And of course, Jesus loves me, and so I had to come face to face with that. But also my best friends were very gracious people who just exuded grace and forgiveness. And so I think that's when I also came face to face with what grace looks like, what it really means to be a flawed individual and yet still fully accepted and loved and cherished and enjoyed,
Wow,
and
sounds like an awesome place to be.
Yeah.
That's a super good part of your life, of your story.
Yeah.
I can't say that I had the same.
I'm very, very thankful for that experience in college and for those friends. That is for sure. And Matt was a part of that. I met him in college and we were just little babies when we got married. We got married a week after I graduated. So we had just barely turned 22.
Wow. My wife and I were 21.
Yeah, see, babies. Yeah, we had turned 22 a couple weeks before we got married. 3 weeks. There you go.
Samies. Wow.
So, yeah. And we did not like really have any direction in life. I'd majored in Christian ministries and minored in Spanish, and I was working in a daycare, and Matt was working for Young Life, and we were fundraising part of our income, and then he was also baristaing for the other part of our income. And I hated fundraising for our income. It was the worst. It was awful, and I was really bad at it, and we didn't do well at it. So eventually we stopped doing, Young Life, or who was it, Youth for Christ? I don't even remember. Youth for Christ. Yeah. And this was so long ago. But that's where we met Chris Gwaltney, who is one of the other founders of Love Thy Nerd, during that time when we were doing Youth for Christ. And we didn't have anything going on, so we decided that I should go back to school because all the jobs I needed really kind of required more of an education. So we moved to a seminary town so I could go to seminary. But then we ended up starting a family instead. So, and I decided I wanted to stay home with them. So I'm not using any of my undergrad or graduate classes, but I mean, I'm using them. I guess they all inform how you think and interact with the world.
But you feel like that, do you ever feel like it was a waste or no? I'm not trying to nail you down. I mean, because my wife went to university, got her teaching degree, but she's used it very little in that particular job.
Yeah.
But
I guess like I do feel like, well, there are things I probably could have majored in that maybe would have made more of a difference to my life. I do not at all regret my college experience because, like I said, like I think the like worldview, like horizons expanding, meeting new and different people, like all of that was an education in itself and worth every penny. And I don't think I really regret my seminary classes I took, although I probably would not go back to seminary. But I took a lot of like counseling classes, and that was good. I mean, you always use those kinds of skills in life, right? Like you're always counseling yourself or someone else. So that was good.
I think we always feel pressure to know everything when we're so young.
Yes.
And decide our schooling. And it's all got to make sense and it's all got to fit together for your career for the rest of your,
right.
You know what? I think 1% of the world, 1% of the world has that happen. The rest of us are taking all these bits and pieces of things. And how many people do you know that get a major and then just go back to school and do something else, or just go from college to university and then.
Right. I kind of wish we could do it backwards a little bit. Like I think it was a good season of my life to like experience that like living with other people thing and being taught from different worldviews thing. But I think if I went back to school now, I think I would learn a lot more. Like
for sure.
I just didn't have the capacity to even take in half of what they were teaching me at that stage. So I would love to go back to school now.
I was terrible out of high school. I just was first student because I fell in love with someone, and that was about all I was thinking about.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. Yeah. I mean, Matt and I dated for like 2 years in college. So, and my grades definitely went down after I met him. So, I did fine, but I probably would have done better if I hadn't been dating him. Yeah. Yeah. I think that nowadays I would love to like just sit in and audit a class, but instead what you do is you listen to podcasts because it's like you get that experience. So I get to sit in on somebody having like a discussion about, the Beatitudes or something. And I feel like I'm back in class, like listening to a discussion between people, in seminary or something. So I do that a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts because I'm like, now I have the capacity to really learn and grow and understand this material. So I want to absorb it. Whereas then I was like, just got to get through this class and get an A, and then I can go hang out with my friends.
It's too much information at once anyway, to be honest. I can't. We were just talking about that the other day. How many sermons do you even remember?
Yeah.
In your lifetime, and how many have I heard? Like I'm heard so many, and it's just like I don't.
Yeah.
How many of them have really affected my life? There's a few, but
I think like maybe the overall scope. Like you're like gradually absorbing, but like those things that stick with you and you really remember. I can tell you the one that stands out to me the most, and this is not a good example, but I thought about this one sermon for probably like 20, 25 years. When I was a kid, this guy came to our church and he had a deep Southern accent and he had this 3-point sermon. It was at a revival. And his 3 points were, you got to name it, you got to claim it, and you got to bring it. And I did not understand his third point. That whole sermon, I was like, I had no idea. And I don't know why I didn't ask anybody at the time, but I literally thought about that sermon on and off for 20 or 25 years. And I posted it on Facebook one day, like years ago. And I was like, can somebody just please tell me? What was it? And I think it was like he was trying to talk about filling the pews with people and bringing people to church. And he was like, you have to name the person, you got to claim them for the Lord, and you got to bring them to church.
Yeah.
Bring them. But I was like, Years of my life.
Oh,
That's what sticks with me from sermons, Al. It's terrible. It's terrible. But you're right. Like, in general, I think it's like an overall absorbing and growing, but it doesn't all stick with you from week to week. It's
no
true.
way. Well, podcasts are, I find there's one called The Bible for Normal. Really like.
Oh, I don't know that one.
But it's for my type of thing. There's so many podcasts out there too. But yeah, no, I'm the same as you. And then there's once in a while a sermon that I write it down.
Mm-hmm.
Some big points. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. And I love my pastors. I think they do a really great job of like dissecting the truth. And I love like talking about it the week after and, you know, like tearing it apart a little bit more with my friends. But true, if you ask me what I learned in church 3 weeks ago, I don't remember. I don't know. But yeah, I think like several sermons that really have changed my life. I think like starting to listen to the My Strange Bible podcast, and the Exploring My Strange Bible, and it's by the Bible Project. Tim Mackey does it.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, I really love him. And that we started listening to that a few years ago. And that made so many things click. Like the way that he explains the Bible from the perspective of the people who would have written it, instead of, I was always kind of taught to read it from my own perspective, you know, like from this century white Christian American worldview, instead of like, what do you think they meant when they actually wrote it? And what was going on in the historical context? So that, I think, was really a moment of growth in my Jesus story, was being able to think like, oh, like put yourselves in the perspective of what was going on then, of these like actual real living people who they were receiving these words in the context of their own life and experience, and then try to understand that. And from there, you can get your own application. But that was kind of a life-changing perspective for me, for someone who'd been reading the Bible since I could read. I'd never really read it from that perspective before. So I would definitely put that in my Jesus story as like a pivotal moment that our family, like together, me and Matt, were like, oh, like light bulb moment. Yeah.
Those moments are great. I know.
Yeah.
I spent most of my life in the very conservative, fundamentalist, literal Bible reader guy mode. And coming up out of that, and I don't even know when it started necessarily, but God got a hold of me. And so I love hearing those kind of stories about along the way of how Jesus is changing the way you think.
Yeah.
To me, and I was hit with it one day that I had never changed the way I think. I've thought the same things my whole life about the Bible and things, and I've never, with the assumption that I'm always right. I never would say that, but that's how I was. So those kind of things are awesome to find.
Well, it's like, you know, and like not to trash the people I grew up with, because genuinely, I am very thankful they gave me a strong foundation in Scripture and like the church community. They were a really tight, loving church community, you know, like all these things I'm glad I had the foundation in. But what I absorbed, even if they didn't intend it, was, you know, these things that I've been talking about. And yeah, the being able to like change the way you think about something, it doesn't, well, so like, I think like I took a little too much to heart the idea of defending the faith, like that it was in some way like other people attacking the faith, and my responsibility to have the answers and to defend it, you know? And when you read the Bible from that posture, you know, that is a totally different reading, completely different reading, rather than like reading the Bible to see who Jesus was and what he had to say to these people in their situation, and therefore what he has to say to me in my situation. And I think I did. Again, this is maybe not what people intended for me to get, but I think what I did get was like I got to defend this. I've got to know the answers so that I can have an answer for absolutely everything.
Yeah, that's how I grew up. And you get in this defensive position all the time. And there's even the verse for it, always have an answer. And we idolize apologetists, people that are famous for, going and arguing with people and just making them look stupid. And I used to love those guys. I'm like, oh yeah, he just showed him look how smart he is, and he totally told that guy off. Yeah. And now looking back, it's almost embarrassing that I felt that way, but I'm glad that I grew up out of it. But I know exactly. I think church culture gives us that bent. It's not. I'm the same way. I wouldn't nail it on my family or my church or anything. I think it's just the whole way church was done that made us feel that way.
Trend in like American Christianity, like, yeah. So I think that I can understand the drive towards that. Like it is exciting to think that you can find answers, concrete, definitive answers. There are some things I think we can feel pretty concrete about. And there are people that just like to argue. Oh, that's not me. Like I get so intimidated by arguing. And so I also always felt pretty insecure. Like I have to have an answer and I have to defend the faith. And like, maybe I could do that behind a keyboard, but then you put me in class with a whole bunch of like argumentative seminary men staring at me. And I'm like, oh, never mind. I'm good. I'm not going to argue with you. Like it makes me feel super intimidated. So I would feel like I can't defend the faith because I don't have the right words and I feel really sheepish in an argument. And like, I don't know, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we don't need to be arguing, So I don't know. That's been a lot of growth, I feel like. And another thing more recently that has been a part of my growth story is my best friend recently moved here, and she was one of my best friends in college. So I get to like relive the glory days with her. Cool. And she started reading out, I think I'm saying this right. I might have got a slightly different copy than her, but she's reading her daily devotional out of the Message. And I've had the Message before and I'd read the Message before. But for some reason I was like, oh yeah, I want to go back to that. So I got the Message, like the 100 days of reading, and it's all in chronological order, not in the normal order that the Bible is put in. And I'm not reading it in 100 days because those reading passages are really big and I don't have time for that. But no. I'm reading it like a paragraph or a page at a time. So I'm moving through slowly. But it's so great to read it. And I know you use the Message a lot too.
It's recent with me too. I actually, 4 or 5 years ago, I hated it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. When you're a literalist, when you're a Bible bully, you only want it's down to every little word and every little period. Yeah. So, that's that's a big switch on my.
I feel like there was some flexibility with that in my church growing up. I know there were definitely people that were like King James Version only. But then, we would read the NIV or the ESV or whatever. So I had a little bit more flexibility on that. I owned a Message. I'd keep it around to pull it out and just, this verse is interesting this way, But I never really read the whole thing. And so I'm reading like Lamentations and, just Numbers and all of these books of the Bible that I'd never paid that much attention to before, Leviticus, And when you read it in different wording, like wording that you're not expecting, I feel like it catches you off guard, I think the way it was really intended to. Like, it was intended to say things to you that would make you stop and say, what? And have to think for a minute. So that's been a real joy for me and a real surprise to me lately. Like in the last, I think I bought it right after we moved into this house. So in the last 9 months or so, to rediscover how fun it is to actually read the Bible, like how interesting it actually is. I'm not sitting there like reading predictable words and zoning out. I'm reading like a paragraph and then thinking, whoa, I've got a lot to think about here.
I think that's a real issue for people like us that have just grown up in it and heard it our whole life.
Yes.
That, good. Another sermon about the seeds. Like I've never figured this one out. It's whatever. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Yeah.
But for me,
or like, I know where this is going to go. Yes.
My transformation. So I guess I call it a system reboot, but nowadays they call it a deconstruction in that.
Mm-hmm.
It happened.
You were ahead of your time.
No, I'm. But the New Living Translation version of Romans 12:1 is what caught my attention.
Oh, right.
I had never really read it, and then it was, instead of saying "be transformed by the renewing of your mind," it said "be transformed by changing the way you think."
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, but all my life I thought renewing of your mind meant some kind of weird osmosis thing, that if you read the Bible, it would suck into your brain, and somehow change you. But no, it really means you might be wrong about some stuff. Change your mind about that. You're wrong. And then I'm like, okay, first step, admit that I'm kind of wrong about some things, and let's work through this. But it took that New Living Translation to do that. And now reading the Message too, it's got me thinking a lot of times. And if I want to dig deep, I still got all of my concordances, and I got a interlinear Greek Bible and all that. But to be honest, I don't often go there because I'm just learning how to love my neighbor better. I don't need to know Greek to do that. I just need Jesus to change my heart.
Here's what I pulled my concordance and all that study stuff out for with the Message. I've maybe done it 2 or 3 times, right? But the one time that I got super into it was when the Message says, I don't know why this matters to me so much, Al. I'm so weird. The Message says that the tent of meeting was covered over with dolphin skins. And I was like, I don't know. Dolphin skins? Really? Is that really what it says? And then I got all like nerdy and I got out all the books and I'm like Googling and looking through and I'm like, Matt, can you put dolphin skins? Do you think he's just making this up? Like, did you just throw that out there because he thought that'd be a crazy animal? It could have been dolphin skins. He might not have been wrong. People don't actually know. So I got no answers from my concordances.
You might as well pick something fun.
Yeah. Might as well. Well, it's kind of what it seemed like. Like it was something exotic and waterproof. So dolphin skins might as well be it. That's the kind of thing that I stop and Google. That's why I wasn't good at seminary, but whatever.
I would be like that. I would interrupt this whole class just to ask stupid questions like that.
Yes, 100%. I always was that person. Always. Yeah.
Oh, Erin, I could talk to you forever, but I got one more question.
Okay.
What's your favorite thing about Jesus?
Oh, you didn't even ask me about my passion. Look at you. We got.
Do you wanna? Well, we got time. I didn't want to.
This is for all you podcast listeners. A little behind the scenes action here. He told me that he's gonna ask me all these questions, and he gave me a list. And one of them was, "What was your passion?" And I was like, Matt, what is my passion? What? Passion is a very strong word. What am I passionate about? I totally freaked out. No, it's fine. Let's skip that one. I have a lot of things.
What do you nerd out about? That's another thing. Some people have a real big thing that they nerd out about.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know. I'm a nerd in a lot of ways. I probably nerd out about conversation. I like conversation a lot. And I like hiking and camping and outdoorsy stuff. And I like household stuff and kids and homeschooling and books. There you go.
Didn't you just go out to some theater thing with some girlfriends? Or what was it?
We went to Wicked, yes.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was very good. It was really exciting. So I want to get to more shows. Yeah.
And you don't want to go to Vegas anymore for a long time.
I don't want to go to Vegas. No, not for a very, very long time. My kids were reminiscing about that today, though. And they were like, oh my gosh, remember how much fun that was? And I was like, well, enough time has passed now. It's rosy now, I guess.
Oh, brother.
Anyways, I had
your
to make
favorite
sure
thing?
we got that in. My favorite thing about Jesus, though, is what the real question is. I think my favorite thing about Jesus is that he loves me no matter what. And that it took me a long time to realize that that love was like not just a gritting your teeth love, but an enjoyment. Like he delights in me even when I'm at my worst. That he like cares for me. And not just in a feelings way either, but also in like he takes care of, he leads me towards the best Erin, leads me towards himself always, in a way that is loving and gentle and caring, in a way that lets me let down my guard and not have to perform and not have to be on my best days, but just like rest in his care for me. That's my favorite thing.
Oh, I really like that.
I really like that too. It's very comforting.
Well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah,
like I said, I
thanks
could do this
for having
forever,
me.
but maybe we'll do a part 2 someday.
I know, and maybe you'll come down here and stay in the Airbnb and we'll hang out.
I want to so bad.
Ridiculously excited when Asia dropped that might be a possibility.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm not going to get my hopes up, but I'm going to have my hopes really high.
Yeah, no,
So.
we'll see. We'll see.
I hope you can. I know there's
America
a lot of ifs
can try, and Canada can get over COVID, maybe we can make it a lot easier.
I know.
Anyways, I don't want to end the podcast. Thanks, Erin, for being here. I love you and your whole family.
I know. We love you too.
And God bless. Have a good night.